got you to get to our review.
They want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on a second. All right. Let's go ahead and get the meeting going at 7:01. Melissa. Here. Jill, here. Michelle, here. Ben.
Here.
And Dale, Tom, Justin, and Sean are also here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
An approval for the agenda. We're not adding nothing? Love it. I like it.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Nothing for open forum. Right, county's not here.
Madam Mayor, the Kevin Triplett said he couldn't make it. He requested that perhaps I just summarize, do you want me to summarize?
The Wright County or the fire department?
I stand corrected.
Okay. All right, so let's go to council. Who wants to start?
I can start. It was at last month's council meeting, several fire department meetings, Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, and the Montrose Day celebration meeting yesterday,
Don't look at me, I fully am aware that I did not go.
and then the Halloween party.
Is there any updates on Montrose?
Everything's still moving forward just great.
Breakfast with Santa,
That is coming up in
December 2nd.
December 2nd. Everything is coming together for there. They are going to, flyers should be out around town. Just a reminder, they are going to be running the square again, so that's something that has been very beneficial.
What's
Come on.
that? Credit cards.
Good.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, they're going to be Drew, are you going to be touching on that with the decorations?
Yeah, we will.
Okay. So yeah, everything's coming together nicely for the for breakfast with Santa. So
Awesome.
I can go next. I attended the normal council meeting, the special meeting. Well, actually, that was before last month's meeting. The Park and Rec meeting, the personnel meeting, and I missed Montrose Days last night, which I realized at about 8:15. So, thanks for the reminder, Ron, when you were out there. I said, hey, are you coming?
you're welcome.
I went to, let's see, I have like 12 redevelopment, community ed, city hall, multiple city halls. Didn't make it to the judging contest. The community ed meeting that I went to, there's a little bit of concern that you guys are probably aware of that little kid can. You guys don't know, you know what a little kid can is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, currently, I think the community ed has had it for like, this is their 5th year. And they are $104,516.62 in the hole for that right now. So they're going to be discussing at their next school board meeting, which is I think the end of this month, what their options are. They're kind of looking for any suggestions that the city might have. They were hoping we had some businesses that would help sponsor, but we really don't have any businesses that I can.
How are you know where the deficit comes into play? Because, I mean, it's not cheap to send your kid there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when they first took it over, they didn't start it off as like full-time. All kids had to be full-time, it was like a drop in there. So, and they were meeting with the school board superintendent. So they didn't really give us a whole lot of information. And then actually Kid Care is even, first time ever, they're negative 32,000. And there's 350 kids in our district that go to Kid Care. Little Kid Care is here that has 48 kids. So,
And a wait list.
yeah.
Crazy amounts
Yeah.
long.
Yep, exactly. So it's kind of crazy. You know, and they have 8 full-time employees, which hurts them because then they have to give out all benefits. But they only pay anywhere from 13 to 16.50 an hour, so. Yeah. So that's enough to know that.
Do you know if they do any fundraising efforts for, you know,
Not that I'm aware of.
specifically? I mean,
I
that would be
Something.
something. I don't think it's gonna go up to $104,000.
No, because total right now, they're 124,000. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's all I got.
Okay, Lloyd attended the last meeting, and then I was gone for a couple weeks, so I didn't get anything in there, but I did make it to the, last Friday, they had the District and Community Teaching and Learning Council in Buffalo for the school, and then on Thursday, we read at the elementary school for Veterans Day, for Beyond the Ribbon. So we hit all of the classrooms between the 3 of us and donated the 3 books, the 3 different books that we read back to the school again. So, that was it.
All right, Dale, administration.
Mayor Otto and council, is this on? No. Thank you. First up is franchise fees. It's come to my attention that the council would like to consider some form of franchise fee to be laid on all the users of Excel Electric and Gas, and also Wright Hennepin. The city currently has a franchise agreement with Excel for both electric and gas. It has nothing for Wright Hennepin. And so in the agreement with Excel, it does give the city the option, the authority to negotiate with Excel for a franchise fee. And since we have nothing for Wright Hennepin, we would need to establish a franchise agreement with Wright Hennepin and negotiate the fee. Upon council approval, then what would happen is I would work with the city attorney on that. As far as the language of the franchise agreement with Wright Hennepin, that should be pretty simple. It's just taking the existing Excel one and take that out, put Wright Hennepin in. But we are required to negotiate those fees with the utilities. So basically a motion to proceed would authorize city money to be spent to negotiate those fees.
Would we at any time be having a public hearing on that?
I don't believe one is statutorily required. It wouldn't be a bad idea just for transparency.
Well, and also, I mean, as you have in here, like, the requirement isn't necessarily there, but, you know, Dale does provide that any approvals will obviously be coming through the council. So, I mean, if you wanted to do a public hearing, we certainly could have a formal one for this particular issue. But I think from a legal standpoint, it's not absolutely necessary.
I will make a motion then to request that staff negotiates franchise fees with Excel and Wright Hennepin.
I'll second that motion.
Melissa?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Jill?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Next is the financial update prepared by Wendy.
Mayor and Council, it's just a quarterly update, which we put in quite often into the packets. This is the end of the third quarter, September. I know it's November already, but by the time we get the bank statements from the bank and stuff. As I put in here, we're 75% of the way through the year. Our revenue, we only get twice a year from taxes and LGA, so of course those are going to be down a little. The enterprise funds, we're always 1 month behind because by the time we bill out, it's 1 month, to be collected. So water and sewer, wastewater, a little bit below expected budget, but not bad. Expenditures, we're right in line. Debt service has been paid for both February and August, so it'll show it being a little high on the expenditures, but that's because it's 100% done. If you look at water and sewer, wastewater, they'll be a little over the 75% as far as budget-wise, but that's because, like I said, of the debt service. If you take the debt service out, they're well below the expected. So we're within budget on everything right now. Assessing is paid, already for the year. We're comp, liability insurance, all that's paid at 100%. So we're in line with where we need to be.
I have a couple questions. On the park and rec. Year-to-date, $139,750. And then the balance is 69, so.
That's the year-to-date budget. That's what we
Right,
budgeted.
right. So then we have the 75,000 LGA on park and rec development. That is in regional park.
Correct.
Year-to-date, okay. And then our balance is 36,000?
So this is just the expenditures and the revenue. So it shows $75,000 was budgeted in the park and rec to do the park. We've spent $268,000. See where it says year-to-date amount 268?
Yep.
So it shows that we're year-to-date over, over the budget is $193,672. However, you have to remember we've been putting $75,000 a year in there for the last couple of years. So we're really, I think as of last Friday when I went through everything, we are at about 96,000 deficit in the regional park fund, but we still have to get the other half of LGA yet. So when everything is said and done, we'll be right around 60,000, which is what we had planned on being at when we did the capital improvement plan. And we said we would be deficit of about 50 to 60,000. So we're going to be right there. So when the 75,000 comes in next year, it'll be made up.
Okay. Because the 75,000 that we have though is going, 50 of it's going to regional and 25 is going to 20.
So we might have to shift a little bit into the, we were going to put 25,000 down there
Over to the.
for the walking trail
Mm-hmm.
and 50,000 here, but by the time we did the fence, which is almost 10,000,
Right,
it took us up to about $60,000 deficit.
right.
So we'll have to put 60,000 in there and the other 15 into
Over to this.
25, and then after that, go all of it to Highway
We start
25.
over. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, Dale, fire department.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. There were a total of 23 calls in the, for the fire department. Medicals were 18 of those, which is about normal. And the other calls, there was an accident with extrication in Franklin Township, propane tank leak in Woodland, controlled permit burn in Woodland, false alarm in Woodland, and smoke coming from a semi-trailer in the city. Calls to date, 146 this year, as opposed to last year, it was 178, so the department's down 32. I don't know if that breaks down neatly to 85 to 90% medicals or not. I would guess it would. The calls were in the city 12, Woodland 4, Franklin Township 2, Marysville 5. The department notes there were 3 training opportunities that were taken advantage of. Truck maintenance, a monthly staff meeting on October 3rd, the yearly agility testing on October 10th, and training on ropes, knots, dotting, and topping turnout gear, and I don't know what SCBA of the school up or not, but that was on the 17th. Other activities, October 10th, fire prevention for early childhood family education. That was 6 man-hours with triplet, Menard, and Cortices. Is that how that pronounced?
Cortices.
The next day on the 11th, fire prevention for 4th grade with the same 3. 10-12, fire prevention MES. Those 3 plus Marketing, DeWitt, Vanderbeek, and Johnson. 10-13, same thing, only now we have Barnschmidt or added to the list. And then on the 18th through the 22nd, there was a fire chief's conference in Rochester that Triplet went to. As I'm sure you're all well aware, Kevin was appointed fire chief for another 2-year term. And do you want me to save the acknowledgements for later on in the meeting, or mention them now?
You can say one last time.
Okay. The department wants to thank all firefighters who helped with fire prevention. Approximately 79 man-hours were spent over the course of a week teaching and presenting fire prevention to the community. And also, the department really wants to thank the Montrose Elementary staff and students for taking part in fire prevention. That concludes the report.
Thank you. Baru.
Good evening, everyone. First, we want to apologize for not getting the minutes into the packet. They weren't done quick enough, so he was faster than we were, so we missed him. Quick recap, we discussed our past and upcoming events, some of which are a craft with Breakfast with Santa. We will be doing an ornament that can be hung outside, and that will be put on to the city Christmas trees for part of the tree lighting ceremony. Following that, of course, then there is the official tree lighting ceremony. We will have doing some caroling, and we'll have some hot chocolate and that kind of thing. It is going to be a quote-unquote official ceremony, so we'd like to have a commitment as to mayor and council will be there. If you're able to commit to us tonight to, and although I will be there, he did commit to that already.
I should be there.
Mom, Tom.
I'll be there. I don't know for sure yet.
All right, we have, quickly, we have skate day in January, we have movie night in February, and egg hunt's gonna have to be in March this year because Easter's April 1st. So everything's coming really quickly. Also want to remind people that we've got open gym going on, and that we did a post on social media. People had kind of forgotten about it, so they were very excited to hear about it again. And we did a first-time game night here at Community Center, and that went over well. People were excited about it and want to do it again. So we got lots going on. Keep checking city newsletter and social media for all of this stuff, because there's going to be lots of it coming fast and furious, so you'll get tired of seeing my face and name around there. We had our Halloween decorating contest. This was the 3rd year. We had a lot of people that were involved in it, that decorated, and a winner was chosen, and they were so excited, she was literally jumping up and down. So we went tonight and did some pictures with them, so we'll be posting those. Just in case you guys didn't know, our winner was 189 Pheasant Ridge. There were 2 other really close contenders, Sam over on Breckenridge and on First Street. There actually was a tie, and we had to have a tiebreaker, so that was good. If you guys did not know, there are now some like trophy boards that are wooden, one for Halloween and one for Christmas decorating, that will be perpetual, and each year the little plate will be engraved, so there will be a running list essentially up at City Hall, so people can look at. We also have the trophies now to give out, so that's kind of exciting. And believe it or not, you have a choice between a trophy and a gift card, and people pick the trophy. So people are really excited about it. They're looking forward to Christmas. People are already talking about the Christmas decorating contest, so I'm glad to see the enthusiasm behind it. I think he's kind of growing every year. And a reminder for that will be judged on December 22nd at 6:30. We also are really excited to have Dale on board, who has got a lot of experience with grants and other park-related items. As such, he and I have been discussing some of those things and have ideas on things we want to work on. In the past, council had given myself approval to go ahead and apply for grants and things as they came available. Then Maggie came on board, and the thought was that we should do it jointly, and there were just so many other things on her plate, we never got to it. So we would like to get kind of a reconfirmation or a reapproval that's official and on record from council that Dale and I can go ahead and do that. If I can get that tonight, that would be great. And other than that, you guys have any questions for me?
I will recommend council authorization to proceed with locating outside funding sources for Park and Rec, particularly regional work.
Yeah. Not specifically, but generally.
Right. What she said.
I'll second that motion.
Ben,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Jill.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you guys very much, and thank you for your continued support and participation. It's much appreciated.
Personnel.
Okay. Oh, I left a little early on this one, but I think what's in here. So we met last Monday, November 6th. We discussed some overtime for code enforcement activity. Ms. Dale Powers would like, sorry, Dale would like to.
I've been called worse.
Look at you smiling over there.
Dale had suggested coming in to the city, not necessarily during those core business hours of 7:30 to 4:30 every day, to try to enforce some of these code issues that we've had ongoing, whether it be evenings or weekends. And so there was discussion surrounding that. There was discussion surrounding a holiday party, which we'll bring up in just a minute, and then some fire department hiring and an application that was received, and the general consensus on that. That was about it.
You know, is there any word on it? Hiring?
Not heard of it.
Did Kevin mention that at all to you about the hiring of that gentleman that we talked about, the personnel that he had?
No,
Okay,
not other than that.
just a personnel, okay. All right.
So that's the minutes. All of the details are in the agenda if you want to look at that. Then number 2 on the personnel committee is renaming of the committee. I think Dale had sent out consideration of potentially changing it to management coordinating committee. Wow, I think I should just be done talking tonight. As the new name, Michelle, do you want to hit on that?
Discussion on that? Do you guys want to change the name? Do you want to keep it as personnel? Any thoughts? Concerns? Keep it the same?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Melissa? No, I guess we'll keep it the same.
You can change it. I mean, I'm not saying don't change it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need. What do you think, Jill?
I don't know. And the only concern that I have, and I think this is what Sean had brought up originally, is, you know, with just it being personnel committee, you know, some individuals may question whether what is actually being discussed is appropriate in a personnel meeting. Whereas if you do change it to kind of broaden what your abilities are to discuss at it, it might just create more avenues for us to discuss. And, I mean, we are meeting with the department heads And it doesn't always just relate to personnel concerns, it's more about job-related concerns versus individual concerns. That would be my only concern of changing it, is that discussing those job-related concerns would be appropriate there.
Okay. Any suggestions from staff?
Doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
All right. You want to make a motion to change it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to change the name of the personnel committee to the management coordinating committee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Ben?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Motion passes 4-0. Before we go on to the next one though, in the last meeting that we did have, as Jill pointed out, it was discussed. Do you guys have any thoughts or concerns on if Dale works a couple evenings or Saturdays to do code enforcement?
I'm open to it. I mean,
Okay. Melissa?
I mean, I'm not against it, but I know in the past that it's been brought up and there's been issues with it. So, I mean, I'm all for it, but that doesn't have a cost. It's brought up in the past with other.
Right. Yeah.
That have been doing code enforcement.
The code enforcement, I think, is going really well right now. Dale is really hitting a lot of key things and actually going out and not sending an actual letter, but going out and knocking on the person's door just as an informational first kind of. And he's been getting a lot of complaints and stuff, and he can't always meet with the people and to discuss the violation during business hours because they're not home yet. So I think that is why he's asking to work after hours and maybe on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he brought up mainly the fact that we are clearly a bedroom community where people leave in the morning, don't come home until the evening, and so it's increasingly difficult to try to catch these people while they're home, only working the core day hours. So his thought behind it was that he would be able to hopefully have more interaction with the people and make them aware of the situation before just sending a letter saying, here, you're in violation, here's your fine.
Do we need any, I mean, we're all consensus, but go ahead. It's all good? Okay.
Holiday party discussion.
I was thinking, I don't know, whatever your guys' thoughts are, to have a Christmas party, holiday party with staff, council, and our commission members, as well as our legal team and all of our wonderful staff that is down there. Any thoughts? We had discussed it a little bit during personnel, and then to bring it here to you guys during the week, or weekend. Any suggestions?
when was your thought process on timing of this?
Well, there's really a very small window in December because of Breakfast with Santa is that first weekend, and then the fourth weekend is Christmas, so it's really the week of the 4th or the 11th. So.
I think at personnel, it might have been me that suggested, I don't even remember, but somebody said, potentially a weeknight. Pulling people on weekends is difficult. A lot of people already have plans, especially around the holidays. They'll have plans with family or friends or other work commitments. So we had suggested maybe a weeknight. The date is to be determined, kind of whatever is available for most people.
We do have the Christmas judging on the 22nd. So, but like we discussed, it would be council, commissions, significant other. guys have any thoughts? Jill even talked about maybe at Jackie B's, or we could do it here at the community center. One of the commission members, we talked about a little bit at Park and Rec, they're all on board with it. I saw a couple of the planning and zoning commission members, asked them about it, and they would like to have it like at the community center, because they don't ever get to see, they don't know who's all on each commission. So it's kind of a way to get to know everybody that has. Exactly. I'll speak very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, community centers normally booked on Mondays and Tuesdays, so it really leaves like Wednesdays or Thursdays to narrow it down.
And Wednesday the 13th is tied up
Please.
for Beyond the Yellow
Beyond the
Ribbon to
Yellow.
be here.
Okay. What about the 6th?
I'm pretty much busy every Wednesday and every Thursday too.
Ben?
I have to check. I don't show anything on this calendar right now, but I'm not connected to my work one, so.
Are you tentatively open for the 6th? What about you, Jill? Are you open?
Wide open any Wednesday. Or I can make myself available on Thursdays too. I'll just send that to Thursdays.
Ooh, he does his nails so fast. Maybe he'll do that.
It's true. Go ahead.
We have 2 Park and Rec people here.
And another staffer.
And we have a staffer
Whatever.
Wednesdays. Is that, I mean, I know that these guys are booked on the 13th, so we wouldn't do it then.
When's your game night? When are your game nights?
Yeah, I know, I'm looking.
That.
The next one would be the 6th. Well, they're not set yet.
I know when you talked about
Yeah.
Wednesdays, that's fine.
Yeah. So tentatively, can we book the 6th?
How y'all looking down there?
Come on, Heidi, how about you guys down there so quiet? It's like doom in here today. Anybody?
I'm open.
Bueller? Come on now. What about you, Tom?
I think I'm free on the 6th, the
All right.
Tuesday.
No, it's
That's a Wednesday.
I still think I'm free.
Hey, I saw Mark sneak in.
I'm good.
All right. What time? Well, these guys are done at 4:30, so we don't want to make them hang out too late.
I can do it
5? Okay. Let's see, what's next? City can't pay for anything, so do we want to do,
I think we should do a potluck.
potluck?
Put a sign up sheet at the city offices.
Okay. Does that work?
Have a
for-
prize for like the best appetizer or something.
Oh, that's right, you did discuss that, didn't you? We could make it a fun competition.
Well, that's not very hard. Sorry,
Mayor Otto?
Yeah, uh-oh, you guys are losing. Yeah?
You are correct that normally cities cannot pay for something like this. However, if it's something in conjunction with a health, safety, or wellness type of a thing, then that would be an exception to that rule. So if we did something along those lines for maybe 10 minutes, maybe?
So we have to do diet food? So we have to eat healthy and talk about the healthiness
We can do jumping jacks, I mean, it just doesn't really
of how
matter.
to eat properly and not overindulge over the holidays.
I mean, if you're gonna authorize the expenditure, then that would have to be one of the purposes of the meeting.
Right.
If you wanted to go that route.
Holiday health party. Well, we want to cookie eating contest later.
Maybe Brussels sprouts eating contest, that would
Ew.
be.
All right. So then do we have to authorize an amount? Or how do we want to keep it potluck still?
I mean, I have no problem.
I guess the question I have is if it's anticipated that the council wants to spend any city money on this. They would have to do it only with that. You can certainly keep it as a potluck and not worry about it. So,
I think we should still keep it as a potluck. I mean, I know expenses are tight this year. So, that would be my opinion.
And then we could do the Matt's suggestion of a appetizer, competition, anything, dessert, whatever, however.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could just do a favorite item. It does, I don't know that it has to be appetizer or dessert or
Favorite food.
anything specifically, yeah, just a favorite food.
Just the first, second, third, blue ribbon,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. I've already got to get with Brian on the thing, so I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Because there could be potentially $60 people. Because there's about, with commissions and staff and council, there's about 30 plus the spouse. So,
Well, we'll check the sign up, and we'll see maybe we want to break it up in categories or something. We'll figure it out. What is it?
so who can send out like an invite to all? Where will you make the flyer? Or Jill?
No, it's for Halloween.
Okay, if you make a pretty flyer, send it to Dale, and Dale send it to commissions? Would that work? Yep. Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, Public Works.
Don't have a whole lot for the mayor and council tonight. We are winding down the summer project season and stepping into winter. Got a couple staff members out on medical leave, so just kind of maintaining the status quo right now.
Tom?
All right, yeah, thank you, Mayor Otto and Council. Two resolutions to discuss today, both of them relating back to our ongoing annexation issue with regards to the Marysville Township and the little sliver of regional park property, but ultimately this goes to the overarching issue of our out-of-date annexation agreements. You may recall we previously addressed the Woodland one. This is the Marysville matter. We've been trying to get this done for quite a while now. We've run into a bit of a, just kind of slow everything down in that after I presented at the Marysville town board meeting, they wanted to discuss it with their attorney. I was able to finally get a hold of their attorney, who was Mr. Mike Corey, who used to be the city attorney for the city of Montrose, and he was the city attorney when this orderly annexation agreement was initially enacted between the town and the city. And so it's a little bit of a gray area, and just to be safe, Mr. Corey had asked if we could just make sure that we waive any conflict that he may have based on the fact that he had previously represented the city of Montrose and that he will now be representing the town of Marysville in essentially the negotiation of the same contract. And just as from like a legal ethics standpoint, generally you need to get these waivers, and this is no different despite the fact that we're dealing with these two different towns. He just wanted to make sure we pass that. So what you have in front of you here, Resolution 2017-23, is a resolution by the council that will approve Mr. Corey's representation of the town of Marysville related to this matter, as well as waive any conflict that may or may not exist. It further authorizes Mayor Otto to sign any sort of letter that Mike Corey may request. I reached out to him a week or so ago, sort of said, this is how we're going to do this. I didn't hear back from him. Oftentimes it will involve a letter, but here I think a resolution would be appropriate to waive the conflict, allowing him to advise the Marysville Township regarding the amendments to this document so that we can hopefully put this matter behind us finally. So if you have any questions about that, what I just probably explained in a more complicated manner than I had to, go ahead and let me know. I'm happy to answer anything.
Any discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-23, a resolution consenting to representation and waiving conflict of attorney Mike Corey regarding revisions of the orderly annexation agreement between the city of Montrose and the town of Marysville.
I'll second that motion.
Joe?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. On to the next matter, staying under that same umbrella. This is a resolution amending the language of that agreement. You may recall we passed a very similar resolution amending the language of the Woodland Agreement, which we're still waiting for the Woodland Town Board to approve. This is a similar situation where we are going to pass the amended language and the town is going to pass the amended language. By waiving Mr. Corey's conflict, hopefully he will get involved and advise the town to go ahead and approve the language. Ultimately, he will do what's best, for them legally, but certainly as it stands right now, the agreement on file is non-compliant. It needs to be brought up to date. It's all the issues that I think we kind of talked about with Woodland, where the fees that are to be paid under the agreement currently require payment come from the individual citizen requesting annexation. We have been informed via the administrative court system that they want that payment to come from the city itself. So this allows the agreement to be amended, noting that the city will be the one paying the township for the fee regarding annexation, but it also allows the city to assess a fee against the citizen if it wants to. Kind of just creates another step, and just in order to comply with the statute, this is how the language needs to read. So this is the amendment that we've proposed. So if you have any questions about that one.
Any discussion? Motion?
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-24, a resolution approving a revised orderly annexation agreement between the city of Montrose and the town of Marysville.
I'll second that motion.
Melissa?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Number 12.
I'll introduce. Honorable Mayor and Council, I'll introduce it, and then Justin's going to provide some more detail relating to this. Just wanted to circle back around on this issue, and as you recall, in September, the EDA and the Highway 12 committee met jointly to discuss kind of the status of where we were with the Highway 12 project, the upcoming MnDOT 2021 project, and then what the city needed to do or wanted to do as it related to advancing plans for, to be ready essentially for that 2021 MnDOT project. And at that time, there was a general consensus, I thought, between the EDA and the Highway 12 committee to look at more specifically the planning that had already been prepared by the city, specifically the 2009 redevelopment plan, and look at how that might be able to be incorporated into this 2021 plan, and maybe be able to do this just by, I don't want to say just revitalizing that or dusting it off, but using what was already done as kind of the basis rather than going back out and trying to reinvent that. And so in October, the Highway 12 committee met again, and at that time, staff had put together just some conceptual ideas and overlays essentially onto kind of an existing map that showed how various components of the 2009 plan would be or could be incorporated into into the redevelopment of that, of the Highway 12 corridor. And so the Highway 12 redevelopment committee reviewed that, had a lengthy discussion relating to that, and felt that ultimately they thought that taking what we had done in 2009, applying it in terms of the principles and kind of the details and design ideas that had come out of that, applying that to the current corridor, and then just working with individual property owners as well as getting, again, public input and feedback relating to what that looks like would be the direction that they think the city should go. And so they did talk about they wanted to focus on what I would call the windshield of the city, kind of that core section that would be that Buffalo Avenue to Center stretch that would really allow a focus of redesigning and redeveloping the aesthetic portions of that, which included some additional detail that Justin kind of walked through what that is. But at the end of that meeting with the Highway 12 Redevelopment Committee, their essential recommendation was to move this to the council for consideration, to essentially authorize a scope of work to be put together and then to begin, which would allow us to get from where we are today to a set of detailed construction plans along with costs, and essentially then everybody's buy-in on this project so that we could get that incorporated into the MnDOT 2021 project. We haven't had any conversations with MnDOT at this point relating we haven't had any formal conversations. That would be a next step in this. If the council's direction was to proceed in this manner. And then ultimately there would be a whole series of meetings that would occur following that between now and getting that package ready to go, as well as a lot of decision and input points during that process for determining scope, cost, amount of improvements and that type of thing. So with that, Justin probably can talk a little more about the specifics of the proposal and what else was included.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll just go over some of the details that you have in your memo and in your packet there. So what we did, we put together a draft scope of work based on what we talked about at the committee, and if the council did decide they wanted to move forward, this would be really the next step in moving the project forward. And in the nuts and bolts of what we would do to move it from where we're at now to a point where basically we could have MnDOT incorporate these things right into their plans. So what the goal would be is have a community-driven, council-approved streetscape concept developed, ready for design development, and incorporated in the MnDOT plan. We need to do all this work ahead of time so that we can tell MnDOT and really sell it to MnDOT on what we want to do. Because MnDOT has already provided documentation to us and they're asking us, they're in the preliminary design concept, preliminary design phase right now. They're asking about easements, and so they are starting their preliminary design right now. We just got some correspondence from them actually this week. So details as far as what we would do to move this forward if the council wanted to is we would prepare a site-based mapping for the corridor to use as a rough layout or an overlay to put our proposed design concepts on. Then we would conduct a traffic analysis. One of the things that we need to take a close look at is the intersection of Buffalo Avenue and Truck Highway 12. There's a lot of turning movements going on there. There's just a lot of activity at that intersection. There's some things that were identified during the committee meeting that some existing kind of issues at that intersection that we need to take a look at, and then also need to take a close look at if we put additional improvements there, such as bump outs, that we're not going to create a bigger issue there. Turning radiuses, turn lanes, people going around each other at the intersection, as well as that being really the primary gateway for the community. So it's an important area for aesthetics as well as functionality, and looking at that. So doing some traffic analysis at the intersection we needed, and then developing what we would see as a couple different streetscape concepts for the identified corridor, with one being that intense windshield zone, as Mark mentioned, being from Buffalo to Center, and then also expanding that though all the way out from Garfield all the way up to Zephyr, and maybe overlaying that in that area as well. And looking at that maybe longer term, maybe that's not something, or maybe it's, after we put costs together and see what the city's budget would be, maybe it's doing 2 blocks or 3 blocks instead of the 1 block. So I think the committee talked about expanding that out beyond that. And then, as Mark mentioned, it would be very intensive with, meeting with MnDOT, with staff, with the Highway 12 committee, and most importantly with the property owners and the public. So we would identify some one-on-one meetings with the property owners along there, make sure that their needs are met, make sure that they have an input on the process, and what we want to controls out there, and that they feel like they do have input on that as well, before we get too far along the process. So that's a lot of time, a lot of effort, kind of ends up being a lot of money because it's just a lot of, but it's an important step in the process. Because if you don't do that, we don't get buy-in from the property owners, we don't get buy-in from the community, and the process doesn't go along smoothly. So it's important to put that effort in up front. And then creating a preliminary engineering report to basically document everything, and something that we can use to present to MnDOT, Green County, and public, etc. And then lastly, the committee talked about importance to help visualize this with the property owners and with the public as a whole, is creating some sort of visualization video. What we can do is we can create basically fly the corridor with a drone or something similar to that, and create, what we do is we create an existing base map or visualization, and we overlay all the proposed improvements on top of that. So it's a very realistic, life-looking fly-through of the corridor after, with the proposed improvements in there. So it gives you a good idea, rather than just a two-dimensional graphic on a piece of paper. It gives you three-dimensional. We have some examples on our websites too that I can present to you, if you want later on. But those have a wide variety of level of details that you can incorporate into that. They can be anywhere from very basic, 1 block, to very extensive, the whole corridor, looking at, including all the buildings and everything else, looking at like 360-degree views. So it's kind of a wide variety there. We kind of just stuck a number in there based on sort of a middle ground visualization video, something that's not complete everything in there, but gives you a really good idea of what it would look like. So based on that, the scope of services, the costs associated with that, we included in your memo there. Project management cost, $3,600, and these are estimates based on that scope that I'm presenting here. So base mapping and data gathering of about $900, traffic analysis $2,500, the streetscape concepts and cost estimates of $6,700. To attend and facilitate the meetings, basically doing the public input piece of it is about $9,900. The preliminary engineering report of $3,400, and the visualization video of $9,000, for a total of $36,000. So that's that. Well, staff did look a little bit at what money was available in the budget and in the EDA fund to cover those costs. And they can probably talk in more detail about that, but it does sound like there's definitely enough money to cover those costs in the EDA fund.
And the 3 property owner meeting dates,
Yeah.
so you would have 3 individual meetings.
What we meant is that we would, in order to get all the property owners, we would meet with each property owner one time, and we would split that out into probably 3 different days to make sure we get everybody covered.
And it's $9,000 for the video?
Yes, that's, like I said, that's based on about 80 hours of animation work to complete, which we think would be a real good level of detail that would suffice for the city. And that's obviously not a requirement, but again, it sounds like a lot of money. It's $9,000, but it does provide a good visualization for people, for community, public open houses, probably something we're looking at. Pretty important project for the city, so it does provide a lot of benefits.
So basically what the video would be is an overview of this visual picture here?
It would be not
more in depth?
it would be a fly through.
It's actually, yeah, it's a really detailed, almost lifelike fly through as if you were driving down the street, and you can stop and you can turn and look, and you can see, here's what everything would look like. It's
Like
really
Google Earth, but in the future.
Yeah, in the future. That's a perfect example or description.
So just kind of looking at this diagram you have here, so the
Yep.
plan is now to put, this is, the Highway 12 development plan is to put all these trees, bump outs, and all that kind of stuff, correct?
Yes, that was the rough concept.
Just a general.
And this was based on the 2009 Highway 12 plan that was created. Is really, that was the concept that was.
It was essentially just overlaid right into what's there. So it's a good representation, I think.
Who's responsible for maintaining all of that?
That'd be the city.
And what was the Highway 12 development's thoughts on the bump outs?
I think they were supportive of the idea that those bump outs would help with traffic, but they'd also help. I mean, one of the conversations that we had, or part of the conversation, was this idea that creating something where people know that they're in Montrose. So that was the conversation. They're like, what can we do that is unique to us and that also makes people realize when they're just driving along a Highway 12 corridor for miles that they arrived. And so they arrived in a unique place. So I think whether it's bump outs or it's another design element, they thought that focus on that main block was just really essential to trying to, just have this great image that comes across when you get into the city and kind of help sell them the idea that you're here. So that was a conversation. The bump outs was one way, and I think there's still a lot of design that has to be thought of or considered in that, and whether or not they work or could work. I mean, there's still, but conceptually it was the idea that we'd slow traffic down essentially and make people recognize where they were.
Increase pedestrian safety.
And create more opportunity for pedestrian.
The bump out that we currently have, all we hear is complaint. Well, I don't know what you think, but it's not welcomed, pretty much.
And I don't get that. I really don't.
I think it's a pain in the butt itself, but I don't know, that turning in, off of 12 is just, it totally narrows it down. It's just.
Right, it does, but it does create pedestrian safety. Take Waverly where they had that those two people hit.
Mm-hmm.
If they had a bump out similar to that wouldn't have occurred because nobody can pass on the shoulder when there's a bump up like that.
But they still don't stop. I mean, Chad's almost been hit a couple times out there. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I don't disagree, but I don't disagree that they don't stop. But if somebody does stop, nobody can get around them on the shoulder.
That right there is going to bottleneck the traffic at that intersection so horribly bad. It's taking away the right turn lane. You've got 7-foot wide sidewalks for what? Now there's no shoulder there. Semis can't turn. You know what I mean? You're going to bottleneck that traffic so badly, and it's already so bad in the morning.
Where's the 7 feet sidewalk? I mean, that's going to take up how much space in the property owners?
The plan, the 80-footer right-of-way that's there right now is the existing right-of-way, so this would essentially fit within the existing right-of-way. What we would do is, the curb line would move in. So we're taking shoulder space and converting it to boulevard space, essentially. And we have not talked in detail, we haven't talked really, with this plan right here has not been talked about. So, that's kind of the next step. The council is interested in looking at it further, then the next step is to start talking about that.
And I think the bump outs, I wouldn't get too hung up on those specifically because I think it's going to be a design process, and that might not be the solution we end with. It's just, it was part of the initial discussion, so we just tried to overlay some of what was done in 09 in concept onto a plan and say this is what it could or might look like if you just follow that plan. But I think the idea would be we do the analysis, the traffic study, and the individual property in meetings with the Highway 12 and try to come to a collective, this is the best solution. It may not be this,
Right.
but
For sure. Yes.
If I could just quick comment on the issue of the bump out and then some of the safety issues. I think that the bump out just sitting there right now is confusing to motorists because it's not within the context of all of this.
Correct.
Okay, and so when you're used to being able to go around people on the shoulder, for example, and then all of a sudden you have that bump out sitting there, it's like, holy Hannah, right? So I think that once, you know, a design is completed, then the safety part of it almost takes care of itself. And so it might be just a touch unfair to chastise that poor bump out for it's doing its job, but it needs help. Second of all, one of the reasons that the committee likes the idea of the video is that we want to work with each individual property owner that's going to be impacted by this. And I don't think anything, and my guess from that meeting was nothing was cast in granite. In that the video will give a concept to the property owner to have kind of a basic idea of what one idea could be. But I think I can speak for the committee in saying that we want to work with each property owner to make sure that their business isn't negatively impacted by this, and perhaps this would enhance, you know, their business. So I think that something like this document is a good illustration to show one example. I'd be shocked if the final product that's installed looks anything like this. So.
When was the last time we had a traffic analysis? Didn't we just do that a few years ago? Like the Dollar General and all that was with Joanne?
No, there was no
No?
traffic analysis with Highway
I don't
12.
think
No, no.
Okay.
We might have done one back when they did the flashing light.
Or something.
Bump outs, did we do one when we did the bump out?
We would have just done something right at that intersection.
Yeah, we maybe did.
And then there was something.
The analysis that we're talking about is more so turning movements, et cetera, and turn lanes at that specific Highway 12 counter programs. And that hasn't been really looked at since we did a traffic impact study for those intersections probably 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 years ago.
Are you thinking of Highway 25 when we were trying to adjust, when we were suggesting to adjust the speeds?
I have one thing also to add is, we have to remember too that the road was done in 1998. We've done absolutely nothing with it since then. This committee's been meeting for, I think, 10 years probably since we had that Initiative Foundation grant. And it's really, I mean, all along for the past number of years have been asking about doing some Highway 12 improvements to try to, like he said, make Montrose, you know, so you notice it. 2021 or 2020, when they do this project, I'm guessing will not be done again then for another probably 10 to 15 years. So if we're going to do anything, this would be the time we'd have to spend the money and do it because we won't have another opportunity for probably another 15 years. So just something to keep in mind.
You could do it, it just would be more expensive.
Very spendy because we'd have to, yeah.
Yeah. This would be the most cost efficient way.
Because they'll have the road ripped up, so it'll be the time to, if we're gonna do anything, to do it with them here.
So are you gonna make the houses and the businesses and that stuff along that stretch basically fix themselves up? Because otherwise it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, you know what I mean? Bluntly, look at the road out there, look at the things that are there. There's a lot of homes and businesses that seriously need facelifts and fixing up. Otherwise, it's kind of worthless. I mean, as a taxpayer, putting that kind of stuff in, who's going to water the trees? Who's going to take care of all this stuff? These guys don't have enough time as it is to do what they need to do to manage it. Now you're going to add all that grass cutting and plowing, and you got potentially 7-foot sidewalks you got to clear in the winter. How are they going to find time for that? You're going to need another city staff person. I mean, nobody maintains the flower pots and stuff as it is. So who's going to maintain all this? It's beautiful in concept, but the realities of after the fact, I mean, that number right there is a huge dollar amount to throw after something that, I mean, honestly, It is a bedroom community, and there are not businesses here to support, oh, you need to stop because there's a Caribou, or there's a, whatever, a shoe store, or whatever. There just isn't. This is a pass-through. It just is. It's just the fact of it. It's an awful lot of money for what should just be a road, you know? And I'm just not seeing it. I mean,
I get where she's coming from, and my concern is always been with Highway 12 redevelopment is we authorize through EDA and everything else like $5,000 roughly every year to beautify Highway 12, but the businesses and stuff that get these trees and plants and all that stuff, it doesn't get maintained. So every year we're putting out this money, and it's, as it was discussed earlier, it's green weeds. You know, the businesses that we try to help look, you know, more appealing don't even help us weed the stuff that's in, that the city paid for to put in front of there. The only one that does is House of Praise, actually. They make it look really nice, but, so that's a, you know, I get it. I would love to see this, but maintenance on it is going to be huge.
Dave?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just a couple of comments on what Brew had said. It's been my experience that after some of these beautification projects, the property owners almost voluntarily fix their properties up because they kind of feel like a sore thumb sitting there. Brew raises some legitimate issues as far as cost for maintenance. I don't want to discount that. I don't want to necessarily say that's a separate issue, because certainly as part of the council's deliberations on this, you know, after the fact maintenance is an important item. But, you know, if we're looking at some natural byproducts of the beautification and the property owner, you know, all of a sudden seeing that the city's making an investment, now they feel almost an obligation to invest. That only can increase property values, which would increase taxes. Second of all, I'm sure there's some strategies that could be made on some of those things that would normally require a lot of maintenance, to use, you know, types of plantings that maybe don't require as much maintenance as others. And then finally, maybe there needs to be more, you know, develop a robust volunteer network that could maintain some of the, you know, watering, like you say, and so forth. So I think all those concerns, I would have to believe the council has got those right here, but I also think that it might be a little bit premature to say no to this at this point. It might be worth it to spend a little bit of money just to see what we can do, because, you know, it is a bedroom community. You can't pass through. That doesn't have to stay that way. I remember when Delano was a pass-through community. I remember when Buffalo was a pass-through community. I didn't even know Buffalo was there until I was like 20. I just thought it was, you know, so, because you're on 55 and 25, you go to Maple Lake, where's Buffalo? And so, now look at it. And so it's just a matter of the council wanting a vision for the community and what's it going to be. And trying to increase the mix of, trying to get some types of commercial that are attracted to this type of community is important. You get a commercial entity, retail for example, and they drive through Montrose now, they keep driving. Mm-hmm. But if we can make it so it is a distinct there, so to speak, then they'll see a community that takes pride in its appearance. It's one of the reasons I'm working a lot on code enforcement, is because trying to make this a more livable community. So on these little lots, you know, it's a little bit more, it's right there, your neighbor would jump. Okay, whereas on the lot I am, at home, 3/4 acre, you know, oh well. So that's all part of trying to make this a livable community. You shouldn't have to be able to go to Buffalo or Delano for anything more than gas and a Casey's Pizza. So these things take time, and there's a lot of different steps and parts to it, and this is just one of them. In and of itself, it may be a waste of money. But integrating it into everything that the council wants to do, I think it's an important part.
Any further discussion?
Is there any way to analyze pedestrian traffic in that area? I just know when I lived back in Moorhead, they did a lot of stuff right around, the main railroad tracks, right down in town. And I lived on the north side, and I wouldn't even walk down there because I felt it was too dangerous with strollers full of kids. And when they widened the sidewalks and all that other stuff, we'd walk from our house to Dairy Queen, cross a few major roads because we thought it was safe, and it was nice to just walk around, walk through our neighborhood, walk through an older part of town, walk past an old creamery many years ago. We had an analysis on the pedestrian traffic, those people are going to be affected. It might be something where, maybe we walk to Dollar General on a nice day, just to get to, slow down versus just drive where you need to go and then just drive right back. Even give our people a little bit of opportunity to want to be in that area. I assume when we do a traffic analysis, there's something with that.
Yeah, if you want me to respond to that, certainly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have anything included for a specific pedestrian traffic or pedestrian count analysis. You would probably want to look at something on a larger scale, more of a regional pedestrian count. What we can do is we can do counts, pedestrian counts. I think what I'm gathering from you is perhaps if the improvements were done, the pedestrian count might increase, or people might see the benefit that.
Well, sure, you're right in front of Casey's, that were basically the Casey's and the post office. I do see a lot of people, I like that intersection.
Yeah.
Doing something like that, we were talking on Buffalo Avenue 12, or 12 and 12. But, people may utilize that intersection a little bit more,
right?
Stuff like that. But I don't know how much it gets used now.
Yeah.
If it basically doesn't get used at all, if we assume a certain percentage increase, is it still maybe worth it, or is it, instead of 100, people using it every few hours, maybe it goes to 150? Is that assumed jump in usage, maybe a little bit, maybe enough to tip the scale?
Well, there's two factors that I think is going to increase pedestrian traffic on that intersection, is that Casey's is moving. So they're moving to the east side of town where they were centralized. So they're going to be walking further if they're going to use that route. And also we are planning on the construction of walking trail on Highway 25 going south. So we can only assume that it's going to be more. I don't think it's going to be any less. So to answer that question, I truly believe that's going to be increased volume.
That's going to be highly dependent upon future development too. You can only predict or try to make a prediction of what the future land uses are going to be, and that's going to drive pedestrian counts. So there'll be a lot of assumptions in it, but you can certainly put something together, yes.
We're going to take 5 minutes to go ahead and change the tapes.
They're just an early this shot.
So if you're going to do it now, because they'll do their overlay around here, versus them doing theirs and then moving back to what they do. Because some bump outs, now you get all that cost too. So it's, and maybe do it. Right, there's some numbers. That is.
Oh, I understand. Oh, okay. Put my Netflix on, watch some Fuller House. Well, I started it. There are times when there's like teens there. And I'm thinking, you're I can see it. They look at it. Yeah. Right. So I'm on like that season 1.
Season 8 now. I kind of like, I don't watch TV ever. Isn't that how bad? And Breaking Bad. Have you seen that? Anybody? Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
I'm on season 3 because my son is. That's different too. Kind of weird.
Right now, I've just been watching Hallmark.
I can't believe that we're out.
Well, Full House is like my
Right.
So, I mean, I can repeat verbatim so many of those episodes. And then, yeah, when I thought Fuller House was ecstatic. And Fuller House season 3 premiered like a month ago. But I watched all the episodes because of when it premiered. Right, I think it was season 2.
My kids were there. Yeah.
Okay, we're back on.
Perfect. All right. Any more discussion on the proposal here?
So the only comments I really have is I know when we initially started doing code enforcement in residential areas, one of the big discussions on Facebook was, you know, why is the city so concerned about residential appearance when Highway 12 looks the way that it does? And this is kind of that perfect opportunity to say, we listen, we're working on it. You know, they're redoing it in 2021, now's the time to do it. And I feel like we could really just, you know, like Dale said, kind of push everything together and have one big overreaching concept of creating a better Montrose.
Anything further?
I also would like to add that it was brought up in our goal setting meetings in the past years for development of Highway 12, or redevelopment, I guess.
Are we going to be then, I mean, reaching out, I mean, I know you said you're going to meet with individual businesses and whatnot, but to actually beautify their business? Because there's one on Highway 12 that we get a lot of complaints on. And it's kind of named for a reason, I guess. But, you know, it's kind of an eyesore. You know, people love going there, but it's part of this whole concept too, so. All right, do we have a motion then to give the authorization to go ahead?
I'll make a motion to give them authorization to move ahead with the with this totaling approximately 36,000. They're doing this Highway 12 streetscape improvements. What would you call it?
It's extended all the way.
Further developing the concept plan.
Yeah. Okay.
I will second that. Jill.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Can we look at the video? The video is the one that's kind of getting me. I'll vote aye. Motion passes 4-0.
You know, we won't start with the video, that won't be the first, that'll be towards
That
the tail end, because we
right.
want to kind of have a good idea of what we're going to be.
Now, can we
Doing.
reevaluate?
And then, yeah, I mean, if we're just getting a lot of negative feedback, and it just, MinDOT's not going anywhere with
Yeah.
it, and we're just spinning our wheels everywhere, you know, we're not gonna do a video. I mean, we're not gonna spend money.
We're not gonna, as long as we're not doing a roundabout too, we're good.
Oh, you didn't see that in the content?
Yeah, you guys tried to get that in there, didn't you?
You missed it.
Upcoming meetings. We have planning and zoning, which was canceled. When do you have the preliminary budget meeting scheduled the same day as our town hall meeting?
That's fine. Isn't it fine? Different times.
No, it's same time. Oh, wait a minute, it's at 4:30.
We're just fine.
Yeah, we're good.
Or 4 o'clock, whatever time you guys want to start. We can do it at any time.
So I propose time.
Yeah,
4:30.
that's fine.
I mean, 4:30 works for me.
4:30?
Sure.
4:30, yeah, okay, sorry. So yeah, then we also have a town hall meeting at 7, and personnel is on, or no, sorry, management, whatever we call that.
Coordinating, management coordinating.
Yes, that, it was December 4th.
What's the topic for town hall?
It's the end of the year wrap up, that is what we had planned, right? Yeah, just kind of like we liked, what went good, what they want to see,
Got it.
that kind of thing. And that's kind of what it's like on social media, so. I thought that's what we.
Works for me. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Any acknowledgements?
I have 2 acknowledgements. I would like to acknowledge Sonia Tourville and Corey Potter for their years of service on the Montrose Day celebration. They stepped down as being board members, but they're still there to help out, but they've put a lot of time and effort into what they've done and for this community, and I just want to put it out there and thank them. So.
Corey has what? 15? That's royalty or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
Good number of years.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yes. I would like to acknowledge the individuals, I'm not quite sure exactly who they were, that did the winter planting in the flower pots on Highway 12. I know Sylvia, Ellen, and Paula Thompson, I believe, were some of the individuals, but I don't know if they were all the individuals. So anybody that was involved, thank you.
Do you have the fire department ones, Dale?
I read those.
Okay. Anybody else?
I know, I was trying to think of what's going on, but he's got something.
Oh, Roy!
Yeah, Michelle, I helped with the flower pots, and my wife helped a little bit what she could. And Eleanor Sones helped us too from Highway 12 redevelopment.
Okay. All right, thank you. So how's Sylvia?
She's getting along, starting to come around a little bit more. The doctors thanked me for getting her to the hospital as quick as I could to get that shot for the stroke and crap. But starting to navigate a little bit more.
Good.
It's a long road.
All right. Motion to adjourn? So moved. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?